This episode of Now This Is Lit is brought to you by Audible. Check the link in the description to get your first Star Wars audiobook free. Everyone loves free things. Click that link. Do it. This show is also brought to you by our patrons. If you want to support the show in a different way, with just $1 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. You can get a sticker. You can get access to an exclusive show that we do every month that's wild and chaotic and fun and something you can only get by becoming a member of the Patreon. There'll be so many more perks very, very soon. But for now, do you want a sticker? Do you want a sticker that has a Now This Is Lit logo? Because it's fantastic and I love them. But I also want to give them away because there's just a stack of stickers on my desk. So if you want one, $1 a month. Patreon.com/StarWarsLitPod. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Now This Is Lit, a podcast about Star Wars books, the people who make them, and the readers who just can't get enough of them. I'm your host, Meg Dowell. I use she, her pronouns. And happy Living Force Day, new Star Wars book day. I love when new Star Wars books come out. I love when new John Jackson Miller Star Wars books come out. It's a celebration all around. And to celebrate the release of The Living Force, there are 2 episodes in your feed right now. One of them is my spoiler-free review of the book, and this one is my interview with the author, which was very fun. I've now talked to John 3 times, twice on the show. What's the third one? Can't tell you yet, but you're going to find out really soon. Anyway, hope you enjoy the interview. I'm so grateful to have had the author on again, and I'm sure it won't be the last time. I think the most challenging thing for me for preparing for this was coming up with questions that I had not already asked you.
Oh, gosh.
Because I'm like, okay, we're talking about the Living Force, but in a different context in which I've read the book now. I understand.
Oh, well, there you go. And this will air before, so this is a spoiler-free one.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will not ask you anything that will spoil things, but yeah, it'll still be good. Yeah, no, it was very helpful to have actually read the book and knowing what I'm asking you about, unlike before. But you know, I do not have my copy yet. But I am glad to see, yes, that they exist. My philosophy is that as long as a hard copy of the book exists somewhere, it's real. That is so cool. That is so cool. I see you posting all of these photos and all the promotional things you're doing for this book, and I'm like, living the dream, truly.
Oh yeah, well, my big sister saw them all. It's just, you're so lame. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's family though, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It has been 10 years since A New Dawn, which is amazing and cool and fun. And here we are. Here you are again, having written another Star Wars book. And this one, you got to take a lot of characters that fans who have seen the prequels are very familiar with, but not necessarily characters who we've gone super in depth with. For all of them. Some of them, yes, you have your Yodas and your Mace Windows, but not all of the members of the council, and not in this context, not where they're all embarking on this mission together and figuring things out and being a unit outside of the room we always see them in together on screen. What was that like to be able to take these characters and really be able to expand on them more?
Well, one of the challenges was simply knowing what was really known about each of them, because we had a situation where, of course, we see them on screen in the Jedi Council room in Phantom Menace, and this novel, is out for the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary, so it's very much celebrating it. And then, of course, there were resources that came out at the time, encyclopedias and things, that then informed the Dark Horse comics, which came out at the time. And then, of course, some of those things ended up getting adjusted because clone Attack of the Clones comes out, and it sort of changes how we understand Jedi relationships and things like that. So in relationships. And so a bit of this has become a moving target as we've gone along, and some things have evolved, and what we know about various characters has evolved. And then, of course, we start layering on additional content, with characters like Depa Billaba. Deepa's got Kanan Jarrus from my last novel as her Padawan, and so there's additional comics material there. But I really did have to kind of go back and see, okay, well, Oppo Rancisis, where has he really appeared? Clone Wars movie, various other locations. What does he actually say? And then we get down to characters like Garael Poof, who has he's in your Robot Chicken pretty much, and otherwise. Otherwise, he's not a character that there's a lot out there on. And so I try to find sort of road ways into on ramps into these characters based on various things that had been out there. And I didn't really want to necessarily overwrite anything that had appeared in comics beforehand with these characters, but I would where it was impossible to reflect everything that had been in those books. I looked for ways to capture kind of the spirit. So Evan Peel, who again we see in the Clone Wars cartoons, we do have him kind of having this sort of hard-bitten street experience of his life. It's no longer, I don't think, the case that he was recruited from this war-torn world that he grew up from. That he grew up there before he was recruited. Now it's more he went back. He got in touch with his his origins. That changed his character somewhat. So what I'm always trying to do is look for the character traits that I can then blow up into something like a story. And so I'll have Sacy 10, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing names left and right, just because of all the different ways they've appeared in places. It's clear that character is a great pilot, and also has been more or less not somebody of many words. He's kind of gruff. And so that I again sort of blew that up into the character that we see in this book. And then I gave him, I gave them sort of friendships with one another, connections, where you can realize that we're picking up in the middle of arguments. We're picking up in the middle of, Plo Koon sort of ragging on or not so much Plo Koon, but definitely Uriel Poof ragging on Ki-Adi-Mundi for being so strictly business about everything. Plo Koon as well. In his talks with Sacy, and we get this sort of notion that these people kind of balance each other off a little bit. And none of these conversations, none of them are their first conversation that they have with one another. And in fact, we get kind of a moment with Oppo Rancisis and Uriel, where Oppo is just like going, we've had to deal with you for hundreds of years now. and and you have not improved. I hope that people enjoy the group dynamics that I've kind of established here. Again, certainly they didn't exist before. in some cases, and in other cases, I did pick up on what was available.
I, for the record, thought it worked very well. And it really, showing the relationships between all of them really makes them feel like more of a unit and makes the scenes where you do see them later, talking things out, arguing, trying to make decisions. It
Yeah,
really helps to reinforce like this is why ultimately all these members are on the council, why they're all here, why they're all in
yeah.
the positions that they're in. It works. So good job.
Oh, very good, very good. No, this was very much a book that had to be uh, that had to be designed
Mm,
because I wanted everybody to have um, yes, there are the stars within the 12,
mm,
but I wanted everybody else to have equal screen time
mm,
or equal page time. And so to be able to make that happen and to be able to go between the various story arcs that I've got going on and
mm.
with the villain and everything else. And then we've got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon running around. I had to make sure that I, sort of put everything out on a spreadsheet and said, okay,
Mm.
here's how we're going to cut these scenes together, and make it all work out.
It's I'm sure that took a lot of work. Because everything, when you get the final product, everything feels so seamless. But it's not when it starts out. I know that.
It's always challenging.
This book is many things at once. It is very profound. It made me feel things. I may have cried. Um,
Oh dear,
in a good
not
way.
intentional.
Happy tears. But it's also very, very funny.
Yeah.
All throughout. And I want to know why it was important to you to kind of have that balance of like, yes, this book is saying so many important things about the galaxy and the people in it and the Jedi and the Republic and everything.
Yeah.
But it also needs to make you laugh, and it does. Why? Why is that important?
Well, I'm a comedy writer first and foremost. Most of what I think are our favorite scenes from Star Wars, have to do with the repartee
Mm,
between the characters, and those are characters that have all just met. And again, here it's a different thing. You were picking up in the middle of these people's stories,
mm,
but then they're also encountering all sorts of other people for the first time, and that's indeed what this story is about. Them going to visit this planet Quinn, this planet which, it is a strange choice for a mercy mission, and the characters do acknowledge that they're not going to some place which is necessarily war torn. They're not going to they're not going to a place which is beset with famine.
mm,
They're going to a place which is an island paradise
mm,
that they helped create. It's just started to go downhill,
mm,
and things are starting to go wrong because of the absence of the Jedi from everybody's lives. And so I said, okay, well, let's create situations where each of these Jedi are encountering individuals who are meeting them for the first time,
mm,
and let's see how they interact. And they wander into the middle of people's personal crises. They wander into the middle of people's personal conflicts. Some of them quite funny. They wander, into the middle of criminal activity which is going on. They wander into the middle of just there's even a labor action in the middle of this book. There's just a whole lot of different places where they could act as Jedi,
mm,
and it all kind of goes back to something I've discussed before with regard to the prequels, where the key moment for me in the prequels is Obi-Wan Kenobi telling the guy not to sell him death sticks, and that he wants to go rethink his life. This is the kind of thing that Qui-Gon thinks the living force is asking them to do. is asking them to go interact with people, save people from, their worst decisions or their personal demons in some cases, so that they can go on to help other people and pass it on, pay it forward, whatever the phrase is. And so, I try to come up with these moments. A number of them are, as you say, designed to sort of be more tearjerker moments. And then a number of them are just sort of, much more on the, humorous or comic relief side. Yeah, absolutely. Eth Koth and the woman with the house that I'm certain looks like mine, trying to make sense out of a hoarder's collection of things. Again, it takes what his job sort of is at the Jedi Council at the moment. He's helping them with sort of clearing materials that are going into the library, going into the archives, and I sort of land the worst case scenario situation on him with a very peculiar person. And so again, these are moments that I'm happy to have figured out ways to get in there.
The more Star Wars books we get, the more books that are currently coming out can connect back to books that have come before it. And I love how that's happened in canon, and I love how it just continues to build and build. And one thing you were able to do a little bit in this book is connect to the High Republic. Not extensively. It's not a situation where you
Yeah.
have to have read all the High Republic to understand the connections, but they're there. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we're at a point now where those stories are so embedded into the larger story of Star Wars that we can reference them. And this story is, reliant on the High Republic being there in order to make sense
Yeah.
as to why they're going to this place and doing all the things that they do and why they're closing this outpost and all these things. And
Yeah.
how does it feel as someone who's gotten to contribute to multiple Star Wars stories in different eras with different characters along the way? How does it feel to be able to be part of this expanding universe where every new story that we're telling is just making the
Yeah.
universe bigger and more complex and
Well, it's not exactly my first rodeo, as they say. So I built up the Knights of the Old Republic era. I built up, a part of the Old Republic era with the Lost Tribe of the Sith. I built up a part of the Old Republic era with Knight Errant. This is all in the EU. And then I got to elaborate a bit on Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously, and then the pre-Rebels period with New Dawn, and even some background stuff in Canto Bight. And I wanted here to I knew that the High Republic would be very useful emotionally for the Jedi, because many of these counselors would have been present back then. Many of these counselors would have been around, and the whole notion of the planet itself that they're going to being a great work that has started to decay felt to me like a great metaphor for what the Republic was, and for what the Jedi were facing at this point, which is that they become absent landlords, not because they want to, but because the galaxy is just bigger. And they also have the Senate, which is corrupt, and you've got Palpatine out there as well, making demands on them that even though they don't respond directly to the Republic or the Senate, they feel like, yeah, we kind of ought to do what they're asking us to, because that's kind of the deal. And so there's a good bit of that kind of feeling going on in some of the some of those moments of the book where they're like, we used to actually do stuff, we used to actually, create things and build things, and we were not bureaucrats. And I wanted very much the opening sequence of the book to take us on an odyssey through the lives of what every counselor was dealing with in order to sort of show what they were up against. And so we do have this sort of voyage at the beginning of the book where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are just trying to get them all together to have a discussion, just trying to get them together to have a meeting.
Mhm.
And they see what their daily lives are like. And it's pretty much only Deepa is doing anything that is the slightest bit useful. And she is herself in her own, sort of, she has sort of the largest arc of the book. And so she's the one who's getting to, sort of experience this disappointment, this fraying, this decay in person. And so, my hope is, clearly I'm not here to, spoil anything from the old or from the High Republic era. Somebody said, "Oh, the High Republic, you can't." I did see somebody say, "Oh, there should be spoilers attached to the map because it calls it a great work of the Republic." That it hasn't happened yet in the books. Well, it actually has happened already in the books because it happened it was one of the very, very early ones. You just didn't read about it. So you're reading about it now. There were lots of great works, I would assume. And my intention is, I can do a little bit of filling in, from the distant future, what would have happened 200 years before. But the High Republic, the present day in those novels is now past when Quinn would have been, initially dealt with as one of the great works.
It is so good to have you back again, writing more Star Wars. The first time I talked to you on the show, I think I said at the end of the episode, can't wait to have you back someday, not knowing what you knew at the time, which was
Well, I never was gone. As I talk about in the acknowledgments, Tom Holler and Elizabeth Schaefer made sure that I had short stories and the novella in Canto Bight. I did some comics for IDW. Various things where they fit in. There was I won't say what it was, but there was a previous occasion where I just couldn't come back for anything sizable because I was hip deep in another project for another universe. And this one hit at exactly the right time. I was literally in the car about to head for the release event for the my Star Trek novel, Strange New Worlds: The High Country, and Tom wrote and said, "Do you want to do a Jedi Council novel?" And I said, "Only if Qui-Gon can call them out and get them to." Leave that building, and so it could be about something that I'm interested in writing about. And there we go. And that was the long and the short of the guidance in terms of at the beginning was let's just start with finding a way to get all the Jedi Council in, and then as we went along, we worked on together all of the goals that we had for what we wanted people to feel at the end. And it was very important to me that the book, even though there is this minor key that the reader certainly knows that the High Republic is over and that the Clone Wars and everything, it's all coming, it's all going to collapse. I wanted it to feel, to end on a good moment, and or at least a good feeling, and to end on a moment where Qui-Gon, kind of speaks things that will happen way in the future yet, with what he's prescribing. That the more that they pay attention to the living force, the more they pay attention to what's around them, the less likely they are to miss anything really surprising going on out there, like somebody sneaking up on the Jedi from behind and Order 66ing everybody. Whatever, what, I don't know if that's a verb or not, but anyway,
It is now.
it is now. So yeah, and and I mentioned in the very beginning, at New York Comic Con, that the big picture that Obi-Wan and Yoda are advising Luke to do in Empire Strikes Back. If you followed their advice, Luke falls to the dark side, because he doesn't have that moment where he looks at the glove in Jedi, because he has gone to try to save his friends. And because he did go to try to save his friends, he had that earlier moment of understanding and recognition, and it was the right thing to do. And he, by doing the right thing, the Force saw him through.
I cannot wait. I'm sure you feel the same, for everyone to finally be able to read this book and to finally be able to talk about it, because I read it a month and a half ago, and there are things I need to talk about. But again, I'm sure you'll hear about it. But I'm so glad that we were able to sit here and not spoil anything, but still talk about how this book came to be, and talk about all the things that people can expect and look forward to. Thank you for coming here again to talk to me about Star Wars books again.
I appreciate it.
Now This Is Lit is part of the Faraway Fandom Network. It is produced by Devor Mondam and written, hosted, and edited by me. Jose Jimenez designed our podcast art. You can keep up with the show on Substack at Now This Is Lit, and find the show wherever you get your podcasts. There are so many ways you can support the show, and all of those ways are linked in the show description. The newest way is to become a member of our Patreon. For $1 a month, you can get access to an exclusive show and a sticker. And if we get 500 people to support the Patreon per month, I can hire an editor. That would be great for me, and maybe for you too. So if you'd like to support the show with just $1 a month, you can do it that way. Or you can just keep listening and sharing the episodes. That is also helpful, and I appreciate it. For more book reviews and Star Wars Book Celebration, follow Star Wars Book Reviews on Instagram and TikTok.